Hey, my name is jmartin. It's a Napoleon game. We have a 3v3 on grassy. I played this game earlier and I had a fantastic time. It was a good game too. Thought I'd do a video about it. I am on the right. I'm playing as Prussia. In the center from the HC clan is Mr. Red, and rounding on our team on the left as GB is Chauncey. I don't know these guys. We were just a random pickup group and I think we wandered into a clan game. I'm playing the same Prussia build I did in the last video with 5 lights, some meat shield, some infantry, and the 4 cav. Immediately I thought my partner in the middle, Mr. Red, knew what he was doing. He brought 6 cav. That's pretty common in 3v3s on grassy. Your center player will fill out an extra couple cav slots with the anticipation that they'll be sending cav to help one of their partners. So I was immediately a little confident. It seemed like my partner knew what he was doing. Spawning against us from the AQUILA, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but AQUILA clan. I believe we have Hados 19, Artulak, and Doggy 4. A couple notes on the builds that they brought. The first is you've already noticed that we have the 4 cav on the right and the 6 cav in the center. I'm kind of going to ignore the left, to be frank with you. So we have 10 cav available over here, and they have 3 cav on the right and 3 cav in the center, and that's the left player didn't bring any cav at all. So you know, personal preference I suppose, but generally I think you want a little more cav available to your combined armies than just 6. 3v3s can be fluid. I'm essentially guessing they didn't expect to play like an organized game or against good opposition is really what happened. However, a few other things is these guys all have a bunch of elite. All of their infantry is in 2 lines. Even this player over here has done it, but they have a front line of 4 kind of, these are all Polish right here, and this guy is all musketeers, so this is more regular line infantry. And then they have a bunch of elites. These are all old guard and a 18th and foot guards all over here. So they've made this decision to position regular line infantry in the front and hold elites in reserve in the rear. And then again you have the standard light infantry gambit thing going on that everybody does. So that's what we do. I decided at the beginning that I wanted to be a little more aggressive this game. I think that as my play skill has receded a bit due to inactivity, that's just resulted in me being more not as aggressive as it should be. I'm not sure what the antithesis of that is, but that is kind of a problem I've had with my game, and I decided that I want to rectify that. And so I make a move. This is a pretty common move. I bunch all my lights on the right, and then I move line forward to engage his lights. And then we have targeted fire. 3 lights going against that guy. These lights are going to fire up against the middle one, I think. Yep, and then the meat shield's going to run up in front. If you're engaging on the flank, and then I move, this is the important part, is that, let me pause, I move line up to engage his lights as well. Light infantry are very, very powerful on this map, and anything you can do to maximize casualties against them is good. One of 2 preferred methods, well 3 preferred methods that I like are A, the targeted fire thing, and I can kind of tell that he's not doing that. And B is a lot of times if you bunch your lights up on one side, that gives you room to flex line infantry up to engage his lights directly, and I really like doing that. You can generally get we're going to get positive trade-offs right here, right? Because I have 8, well 9 if you count the land war, so I have 9 units engaging 5, and that's a very good place to be. You're going to take a lot of hits moving in first like this, but that's it, and that's what your meat shield is there to do. Now this guy reacts, he does 2 things. First is he has a very good militia, he has a National Guard that he sends in for melee. That actually does attract fire from one of my line units. I should have had targeted fire on that unit. Another thing that I do is I immediately move a Lancer in to disrupt this chasseur. I'm going to make a few mistakes here in the next few minutes that are really, really bad, and his line is close enough to do it. Okay, I'm going to pause. So, really dynamic thing going on right now. I've moved a cav unit in to disrupt the chasseur that is pretty much just a sacrifice. I mean, he does his job right and he shoots the shit out of it, which is good for him. But so I do disrupt that unit. I think I targeted the wrong unit though, because that's the unit my guys were shooting at. I should have targeted this unit, because if you notice, he's gonna try to pull back, which is gonna break the range on my lights, which means my lights aren't gonna be shooting. So that was kind of a huge mistake. The second thing that's going on is I didn't really react to this National Guard advancing. I just sort of ignored it, which I think works out for the minute. And the third thing that's important is that he charges all of his cav at this point in a countermeasure. Now that's kind of a good deal for me, because I provoked him to countercharge a 3, which is one of my own. The problem is that I'm notoriously bad about letting my protector line, so you should have line behind your lights to protect them. I'm notoriously bad about letting that lag. And my cav has routed. Here comes all of his cav. Side note, I think that bringing Chasseur in a 3v3 might be a bit of a mistake. Let's pause the game real quick. His cav are crushing in. I'm charging another one of my cav units over on the left. But you can see there's some disarray right here. So all 3 of these cav are coming down. I'm starting to withdraw my lights behind my line, but my line are still moving. They're not in position yet. I'm actually going to do slow-mo for this. So his cav are going to get caught to a degree on my landwehr. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. It's probably bad. I'd probably prefer they just continue to charge through. We have routed his National Guard, I guess, through fire from my musketeers there. And here comes my other cav charge, just trying to disrupt his lights on the left. Again, his line is well positioned to deal with the threat. These are probably debatably bad charges. Okay, so the real problem is that I failed a square against this cav. One cav does get caught in my landwehr there, and I do successfully retreat my lights behind. However, I don't hit the square right there, which means that all of this is kind of irrelevant. I've also withdrawn my lights there just to be safe, but I'm not really doing anything to compensate for this. I'm trying to move one of my reserve guard infantry over to get shots at his cav. 2 things here. A, it's probably bad that he charged all his cav at one target. But B, he actually did a really good job disrupting the right side of my line, and everything's just going to go into kind of a melee ball. To keep you updated, this is really the only action occurring on the map at present. There's no engagement in the middle, so we can kind of safely watch this. So the big picture right now is that on the right, his cav has gotten in there and done a really good job of just melee balling all of my units there. On the other hand, my movement up the left has been kind of successful. I've routed the first light, and we've dealt some, fair casualties to this guy. At this point, I realize these lights aren't in trouble anymore, so I move them back up. Melee ball is continuing. I've just decided to forget about it, hope that my foot guards in the back can shoot up his cav, and I'm moving my lights back in front. They're going to take casualties no matter what, so I really screwed that up. I continue to advance. Let me give you a good camera angle. I continue to advance up to the left, and a real... Oh, okay, so another couple things. The first is that the Prussian guy in the center sends his cav over to this theater, which is bad. Another argument in favor of moving your line to engage lights like this is when players inevitably move their line too close to their lights. So these guys moving up are going to start taking a lot of overflow bullets. You can't see the firing arcs and replays, but if you could, you'd notice that my musketeers are just touching their lights enough to get shots off, and this guy's making a bit of a mistake by moving his line too close. It's going to become relevant here in a bit. So you can see the Prussian cav approaching in the middle. Again, hey, I'm lagging behind a little bit. Here comes a Prussian cav charge down the center. Again, I'm allergic to the idea of squaring, and I believe this guy's going to get a good hit. Oh, maybe I did try to square there. I think it was probably too late. And there's another cav charge coming down, I think, at my landwehr. Now, things get a little interesting now, because that's my partner's cav. That's Mr. Red from the middle. And so he started moving his cav to help me out, and that's going to make things a lot easier. Again, it's fairly suicidal. Here comes the second Prussian cav charge. I think I react to this one maybe a little late. He's going to catch a lot of... Yeah, he's going to catch me, but I'm reacting better. So that's progress, I guess. But he bounces the unit over here to this musketeer, which is a really good play, and he catches me off guard there. So there's kind of some, and he does the same thing here. So there's kind of some serious melee going on, and I'm dropping squares. That's really hurting my ability. The functional result of this is that we're both suiciding cav into each other, trying to gain advantage in this firefight in the middle. Now, I want to make an argument. We still are at like pseudo early game where we have light on light fight, but I want to make the argument that these guys committing, remember all of these old guard back here, that the holding old guard in reserve concept doesn't make, I mean, you don't want to just throw them out there, but you need to engage them because they're your best units in the battle, and if the battle's going to have a pivotal point, you want your best units engaged during the pivotal point, right? And the pivotal point of this battle is now. And so I really kind of want to say that if you're going to invest so heavily in these elites, that you have to use them when they would be the most relevant. And I think that's a problem. I mentioned earlier the overflow bullet problem, and this guy's first line is kind of taking a shellacking like that. At this point, I've got my lights kind of starting to re-engage. Here comes the last damn cav unit. I can't square with this unit, and I should have my reserve line bundled up here, and I don't, so this cav unit's going to do some good work. Mr. Red, again, is moving a Lancer in to go after this Polish. Yeah, he just routs me there. So this Lancer at 40 is marauding through the back of my lines. I think I'm going to get a volley off at him right here, but it's right through the middle of all my cav. Yeah, that's what happens. Okay, so Mr. Red's cav charge here does really well. He's able to march across a lot of this guy's line, and he keeps this guy in square, so I'm able to put some really good shots into this Polish unit. So to refresh the situation, again, no action in the middle, so this is all we're talking about. I've got the 2 line here, 2 lights here. I've moved 2 line up here and 2 lights there. So I have 8 units in my active firing line against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have about a fair fight. Mr. Red has a Lancer that's tromping around there. But my army is really disorganized. I'm starting to move a couple of reserve infantry up the middle to kind of reform the line. I have another reserve line there. And this guy is not really participating much. So that's kind of what's going on. I have a temporary advantage right now due to him being in square and the fact that my line is again doing the firing arc trick on this guy's chasseurs. So I think that right now we're getting good firepower over this guy. Now he does a smart thing, and he kind of withdraws this line a little bit. He still has the 3 light infantry available, and he's sort of withdrawing behind them. I think both armies at this point just need a minute to reorganize, really, is what's going on. But I'm starting to gain a little bit of an upper hand. Same tactical problem is line infantry. That Polish is too close to the chasseur. They're going to take overflow shots here in a minute. I'm not sure who that is. That's either me or Mr. Red. We send another cav charge in there to try to disorganize the center of this guy's line. Now, a real tactical difference of how the two teams approach the use of their cav is the enemy team sent the first big clump of 3, right, the first big clump of 3 French cav that came into the right, and then the Prussian cav that kind of was a little more moderated, but came in, 2 hits and then a 3rd hit after that. And our team used our cav units one at a time, which means that both teams were essentially trading their cav not for kills but for disruption. And I think that our team here did a better job of trading for disruption. See, here goes another one. Okay, so we're moving the cav units in one at a time, knowing that those cav units are probably going to die, but that's buying us a lot of disruption. And again, this guy, I think, wanders into range of the old guard. Yeah, there goes the old guard, and they just get fucked up. So, but the whole time this is happening, we're slowly but steadily gaining. If you watch this guy's front line, we're winning the attrition fight here. And if anything, this fight on the right has been just one big attrition fight. And I think we've had, Mr. Red sent me 3 cav, and the center player, Artie Lark, sent in 3 calves. So in terms of forces committed, we're doing about the same. But you see the game state, we're starting to write units now that we're probably our investment paid off better, is what I'm saying. So use your cav wisely. Don't just charge all of them at the same target. You're not going to route somebody on grassy in one charge. There's too much redundancy, yada yada. So if I may take a pause, the game here is sort of won. And we looked at the problem that there's 3 almost full strength old guard and another guard unit that haven't participated. This is a problem. This is what I mentioned earlier, that you can't have your best units not have a throw at dictating the outcome of the battle, but the outcome of the battle now seems pretty in hand. They do start engaging in the middle right now. Mr. Red's going to do a pretty interesting maneuver. I want to cover that in a minute. But from here out, the fight is kind of over here. I think if I was the French player at this point, I would really consider pulling back. He has 2 options right now. He can engage me and lose an attrition fight because I've got twice the units that he does. Or he could pull back and try to hold those old guard for the end game. And then, as attrition in the game occurs, on a timeline, old guard get more and more powerful, right? As generals die, as friends rout, old guard fear effect gets more powerful. So that's probably what I do, but instead he decides to fight it out. I'm going to switch the camera over to what Mr. Red does here. There's an engagement on the right. And this is a good cav charge. All the players that use their cav, I think, use them pretty well. The center Prussian player, Artilac, I think, it did really well. But so Mr. Red charges, he squares, so he bounces over. This is just such a simple tactic, and everybody uses it, and like everybody falls for it. It's like it's super easy. There's a little bit of miscommunication in the kink between these guys' lines, and that lets one of us start moving infantry. I think they get a couple good flanking shots here. Yeah, they occur right there. So that's a little bit of an awkward thing. And the French player can't advance any because, I'm on him right here. So this forces the Prussian player to occupy right here, which isn't ideal. On the right, you can see me moving to engage. I now have a definite light infantry advantage over this guy, which is going to force him to either, option A would be he withdraws to the left, or option B is he has to advance and give me the first shot. I believe he chooses option B, and I get the first shot, and eventually I'm able to attrition these old guard down. This is an even fight in the middle, with the exception that once they get into range, those 125s aren't nearly as good as the 100s or the Fusiliers that Mr. Red has got. The fight started on the left over here, and the French player, or the AQUILA player, is gonna do pretty well against our poor Chauncey, who's not in a clan. But about here, if you look at the right, the old guard actually decided to engage, and I actually need to start reorganizing my line. I think I do it right there. I pick up a line infantry that's been sitting on the left the whole time. So what's going to happen, what's going to happen on the right is that I'm going to need to take a minute to reorganize my line to actually fight these old guard, and then we're going to actually fight those old guard. Mr. Red's fight in the middle is a little interesting. There's more cav work, and this is the real distinction between, I mentioned earlier, the bringing of 10 cav on our side versus 6 on theirs. All things being equal, if we're able to infantry attrition, having more cav to throw in the mid game is really powerful. Like, he's gonna just route that guard unit. I still have a cav unit in reserve that I'm not using yet, and he's gonna continue that charge into the old guard. These guys are really good with their squares, but you just can't deny the power of the disruption, is a way to think about it. And I'm aware that the old guard at this point are going to be better than the units I have left. My units are probably going to be a little tired, but I'm kind of confident that I can put it together. His cav is still going for the French general. Um, that I can hold it together, and if need be, I can run a cav unit in there, So, um, if you have elite units, you want to use them at a time in the battle when they're going to make a difference. And damn, that cav unit's still going. It gets in the back of that old guard and it's still chasing the damn general. So, this might not look pretty over here, but it's what gets the job done. We've got this guy on the ropes. We've got an old guard and square. Both these old guard are going to fall pretty quick. We're making a route there. Yep, there goes the first one. So this is pretty comfortably in hand, is the deal. So the real story then is our English buddy Chauncey on the left is getting his ass kicked, and that brings it down to Mr. Red in the middle, who has, with his cav movement, what you see now is the guy has lost the right, and so he's kind of withdrawing, and I think that was Red's cav movement on the right that really ruptured that or opened that up for him. And the center French player is actually making a big move. I think what he's done is he's recognized that the French opponent is going to win, and so he just wants to fall back and link up with them. That's actually probably the right play. And if you go back and imagine when this guy had 4 or 3 old guard left, if he'd have done that earlier, and so now we would have had all of them back there, that would have been really hard to break. But I want to say that the French player here made a mistake. I mean, if you want to fight it out, good for you, but in terms of winning the overall game, I think that once they got to a point where he was down to his 4 guard units, I would have withdrawn them. And then if all this happens, with the condition that they're winning on the left like they are, they would have a pretty strong position here, really. But instead what you're witnessing is the final encirclement of the French player on the right. That was a very good fight over there, by the way. So, Mr. Red, our team, is chasing the retreating Prussian army. Just to give you a cursory look, Chauncey over here. I'm not really sure what happened over here. I don't know. I know that Chauncey brought a bunch of rifles and he didn't use the range all that well, but I didn't give it a really good look. So the infantry fight definitely went in favor of the French, is what happened. And what you're watching is French guy kind of mopping up Chauncey, and then our center player, Mr. Red, showing up on the French guy's flank with a depleted Prussian army reinforcing him. And really, Chauncey probably did fairly well. I mean, I don't know. He's probably he just goes melee. You never want to see that. You never want to see that. Yeah, everybody, don't waste units. Your units, even if they're out of ammunition, are always valuable. So this is what you got. That's me trying to catch up. And then Red here in the middle, taking on stuff to the Prussian guy. Red really fucked this Prussian guy up once they actually got to fighting. I'm not sure. Red was probably technically a unit down because he sent an infantry unit in my direction too, in addition to the cav units that he put over. So I'm not really sure how that broke down, but Red does a really good job right here. Somehow he got a huge light infantry advantage and really pushed that. And Chauncey's able to attrition the French guy down to like 5-6 units. And we've won enough advantage in the other parts of the map that we're able to parlay that into a victory. And you're going to see the results screen here, but MVP of the match is probably Red. I think he had more kills than me. And I don't know, I'm a little curious, I don't know how the fight on my side would have gone without the extra cav. I'd probably still win, but it's certainly trickier. I don't know. The fight on my side could have gone different a lot of ways. Like, if I'd hit those 2 squares, it would have been a lot easier. Hitting those 2 squares, or missing that first square, cost me a bunch of light infantry. It cost me a bunch of fusiliers. So, if I could have hit that first square properly, and then if I would have hit the second square properly, the fight on my side would have been much, much easier. So hit those squares, hotkey it, whatever you gotta do. So anyway, that's the game. I had a bunch of fun playing it. Thanks AQUILA clan for playing with us, and I just happened to luck into a couple pretty decent players to be in my team for this one, and it was fun. And more importantly, I tell you what I really enjoy doing is I really enjoy just getting back and being aggressive as a player again. I played a game. I tell you what, I played a game with Riskard not too long ago, and I just played like a pussy the whole fucking time. And he actually called me out, and he said, you know, Jay, you'd have been a lot better if you just didn't fought there. And I agreed with him. Or immediately, I knew he was right. But it's been a while. I haven't played a 3v3 probably since then, and it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to kind of, okay, let's change that or whatever. So, you know, if your friends give you advice on how to play better, take it, because they're probably right. And Riskard in that sense was definitely right. So, it's good to be back out and playing aggressively again, and I like that. So, anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll do the next video. I'm playing about one game a week, so if I get a good game, I'll do a video on it. Some games aren't that good, some games suck, so some games are good, like this one. I enjoyed this one, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, get out there. There we go. And yeah, Red had more kills than me, about 300 more. So GG, man. And GG AQUILA clan, and Chauncey, thanks for playing with us, man. And I will check you in the next video.